The room fell silent as a man stepped inside, a figure unassuming yet magnetic. Heads turned, whispers filled the air, and a palpable tension settled. Everyone seemed to measure him with their gaze, but what they didn't realize was that this moment would challenge their perceptions and leave them with an unforgettable lesson in kindness and humility. Where are you watching from? Share in the comments below, and be sure to hit subscribe for more inspiring stories like this. Welcome to Motivation for Success, the channel where we uncover tales that inspire, uplift, and make you reflect on life's most meaningful moments. Today, we bring you an extraordinary story that begins with a quiet entrance into a prestigious salon and unfolds into a profound realization about compassion, humility, and the true essence of greatness. At the center of it all is Keanu Reeves, whose actions that day offered a glimpse of what it means to live with authenticity and kindness. Ask yourself, have you ever judged someone at first glance? Keep that question in mind as we dive into this story, a tale that just might change how you see the world. It all began when Keanu Reeves had just wrapped up filming for a transformative role. This part required him to fully immerse himself in the portrayal of a haunted individual, one whose life on screen was riddled with hardship. Day after day, he delved so deeply into his character that his own reflection in the mirror appeared foreign. His hair had grown wild, his beard unruly, and the lines of exhaustion under his eyes revealed sleepless nights spent perfecting every nuance. The film had finally finished shooting, and although Keanu was proud of his work, he knew he needed to regain some semblance of normalcy. After months avoiding public events and living in character, the simplest comforts, like a haircut, suddenly felt like milestones. So, when his friend Jordan, one of the few people who saw him daily on set, suggested the famous Nova Salon on a posh boulevard in Parkland City, Keanu decided it was time to shed the scraggly remnants of his role. "You'll love it," Jordan insisted. "They're known for their service and attention to detail. Everyone goes there, actors, musicians, you name it. Just treat yourself for once." Keanu wasn't usually one for lavish spots. His preference leaned toward small, no-frills barber shops. But maybe, after so many months of relentless filming, it wouldn't hurt to indulge in a fine haircut and a fresh start. A few days later, dressed in simple jeans and a faded black t-shirt, Keanu Reeves stepped into Nova Salon without any fanfare. Located on Greystone Avenue, the building practically shimmered from the outside. Tall glass doors opened into a marble-floored lobby, where every detail was meticulously curated to exude elegance, from plush velvet seating to crystal chandeliers casting warm light across the room. Right away, he felt eyes on him. Indeed, Nova Salon was more than just a place to get your hair styled, it was a hangout for the city's elite. Carefully coiffed patrons sipped champagne and exchanged hushed words about exotic travel plans or exclusive film premieres. The smell of expensive perfumes lingered in the air, and gentle harp music played in the background, reinforcing the notion that this was not an ordinary salon. As Keanu made his way to the reception desk, he noticed more than a few raised eyebrows. He wore scuffed boots, and his unkempt hair framed a face partially hidden by a thick beard. Some clients shot disapproving glances, while others seemed genuinely curious. Had they guessed who he was? It didn't appear so. What he picked up on instead was that many of them had already decided he was out of place. At the glossy counter stood Callie, the salon's receptionist, dressed in a sharp blazer and sporting a tight smile. She lifted her eyes to meet Keanu's, gave him a once-over, and spoke in a formal, measured tone. "Welcome to Nova Salon. How can we help you today?" There was no real warmth in her words, but Keanu merely smiled. "I'd like a haircut and a beard treatment, if that's possible," he replied politely. Callie's smile wavered. It was clear she was internally debating how to respond. Finally, she flipped open an appointments book. "We're quite busy, but I'll see if we can fit you in." She paused, then added, "Just so you're aware, our services are premium. Prices can be significant." Keanu nodded. "That's fine. I'd still like to proceed." She blinked, looking slightly stunned by his composure. Perhaps she'd expected him to recoil or mumble an excuse to leave. Instead, Keanu remained in place, a picture of calm. Callie gave a curt nod, then asked him to take a seat on a velvet bench near the entrance while she spoke to the stylists. As Keanu settled onto the bench, he was suddenly aware of the hush that enveloped the room. Gentle harp music aside, he could feel the quiet remarks floating around him. Is he lost? I wonder if he even knows how expensive this place is. Look at that beard, does he think he can just waltz in here unannounced? Yet, none of it showed on Keanu's face. He simply gazed at the elaborate decor or passed the time by checking his phone. With a measured breath, he reminded himself that the people around him had no idea who he was. Or maybe they didn't care. Regardless, he was there for a purpose, to feel like himself again. Eventually, Callie beckoned him over. "Follow me, please," she said, her tone polite but stiff. Keanu obliged, walking past rows of gilded mirrors and plush styling chairs, where impeccably dressed stylists fussed over well-heeled patrons. The further they moved into the salon, the more hushed the voices became, as though his presence was the most intriguing show they'd witnessed all week. Callie led Keanu to Garrett, a stylist known for his ability to transform even the most unruly hair into glamorous creations. Tall and wiry, Garrett wore a tight-fitting suit and a meticulously styled coif. He glanced at Keanu, looked him up and down, then gave Callie a quizzical expression. "Are you sure?" he murmured, seemingly unaware that Keanu could hear him. "We usually reserve our stations for clients who understand our pricing." Callie shrugged and whispered back, "He said he's fine with it." Garrett sighed dramatically. "Very well. I suppose I'll handle this." Keanu took a seat in Garrett's styling chair. The stylist rifled through a selection of top-shelf hair products arranged in an ornate display at his station, eyebrows still raised in an expression of mild irritation. "Let's start with a consultation," Garrett announced loudly, making a show of draping a luxurious robe over Keanu. "Before we dive into anything, we want to ensure you are," he paused, fully prepared for our range of services. Keanu nodded. "I trust you," he said calmly. "I just need a trim and a proper beard styling. I've been busy with a role, so I haven't had time to maintain my usual look." Garrett's lips tightened. He misted Keanu's hair with water as if performing a chore for an inattentive student. "Well," he began, "we'll see what we can do. Might need a more extensive package." All around them, staff members shuffled closer, feigning tasks just to eavesdrop. Nearby patrons, some mid-manicure, leaned sideways to catch glimpses. Murmurs drifted across the air. "He sounds confident. Doesn't look it to me. Maybe he has no idea what's coming." Garrett started combing through Keanu's matted hair with purposeful tugs that bordered on rough. Every time he encountered a knot, he exhaled loudly, ensuring the entire salon could hear his frustration. A second stylist, Sasha, drifted close, pretending to reorganize hair products while casting Keanu a mocking glance. "We might need a hazmat team for that beard," Sasha muttered to Garrett with a small snicker. "Hope we charged him extra." Garrett chuckled drily. "Indeed. Doesn't he realize we do premium transformations here? Not a standard barbershop cut." Keanu, listening patiently, maintained his courteous expression. He allowed them their jibes, suspecting that revealing his identity at that moment would only heighten their embarrassment later. Instead, he mirrored the calm composure he was known for, even as the staff's remarks became bolder. "Wait till he sees the invoice," someone commented from across the aisle. "I bet he'll run for the door," another added. Through it all, Keanu stayed serene, like a quiet lake amid the storm. "Well," Garrett finally announced, "we're about to begin the beard treatment. But before I use our premium oils and shaping services, let's talk about the price. Everything here is top of the line, as you know." He paused, as though expecting Keanu to reel back in horror. but Keanu simply asked, "Could you please give me a rough estimate?" Garrett rattled off a figure that was easily in the 4-digit range. Whispers swept the salon in a fresh wave. Some patrons craned their necks, awaiting the certain look of shock on this stranger's face. Instead, Keanu responded calmly, "That sounds acceptable." An uneasy silence fell over Garrett and Sasha. Neither seemed quite sure what to do next. Their standard tactic, pricing people out who didn't belong, had failed. Now they were stuck fulfilling their duties. Tension filled the space like a thundercloud waiting to release. "All right, then," Garrett said, forcing a grin. "Let's proceed." He reached for the Salon's signature beard oil, a prized product that boasted exotic botanicals and a staggering price tag, and began massaging it into Keanu's unruly beard. Meanwhile, Sasha pretended to rearrange items, her lips pressed tight with unspoken commentary. Despite the renewed hush, there was an air of restless anticipation. Suddenly, the main doors opened with a swift whoosh, and in walked Vivian, the salon's manager. Regal and impeccably dressed in a crisp suit, Vivian was a figure known for her razor-sharp attention to detail and her unyielding demand for excellence. She surveyed the bustling salon, instantly sensing that something was amiss. Conversations quieted. Clients who had been sipping champagne lowered their flutes. Stylists paused mid-trim. The entire atmosphere seemed to tighten around Vivian's presence as she crossed the marble floor with measured steps. Soon, her gaze landed on Garrett's station, where Keanu Reeves sat amidst a half-done trim. In an instant, Vivian's expression shifted. She stared at Keanu's reflection in the mirror, eyes widening. "Mr. Reeves," she whispered, stepping forward and addressing him directly. I had no idea you were here. Welcome to Nova Salon." Her voice carried a new warmth, the polar opposite of the frosty reception offered by her staff. Everyone else, Garrett, Sasha, Callie, and the onlooking clients, held their breath. A ripple of shock passed through the crowd, like someone had dropped a stone in still water. Garrett froze, comb in hand. Sasha turned pale. This was the moment they realized the scruffy stranger was none other than the internationally beloved Keanu Reeves. Vivian gave a small bow of apology. "I'm so sorry for any inconvenience or improper treatment you may have experienced. Had we known..." Keanu gently shook his head, cutting her off. "No worries," he said softly. "You have a beautiful salon here." He glanced around, noting the stares of stylists and clients who were suddenly too embarrassed to meet his eye. Garrett fumbled with a towel, while Sasha nervously busied herself with various hair products. The hush in the salon became so pronounced that the gentle harp music seemed loud by comparison. "I believe we've been quite rude," Vivian murmured, her gaze flicking to Garrett. She knew her staff. She recognized the tension and had likely overheard enough to piece together the shameful scenario. Several clients looked down, fiddling with their phones or magazines. Others exchanged uncomfortable glances, recalling their own mocking whispers. Keanu eased out of the styling chair, quietly removing the drape that had protected him from stray hair clippings. Everyone's eyes were on him as he turned to face them, Garrett, Sasha, Callie, Vivian, and the throng of onlookers. Despite being the center of attention, he appeared calm, even empathetic. "I've seen how people act when they think someone doesn't belong," he said, voice measured but firm. "Too often, we judge strangers by their clothes, their hair, or their bearing, never stopping to wonder what their story might be." His eyes roamed the circle of stylists and patrons. A few dropped their heads, cheeks burning red. Garrett cleared his throat as though about to speak but said nothing. "It's easy to be polite when you believe someone has money or status," Keanu continued. "But genuine kindness? That's how we should treat everyone, regardless of appearances." Vivian's gaze was glassy with regret. She placed her hands together and offered him a small bow. "Mr. Reeves, on behalf of Nova Salon, I sincerely apologize. This is not the standard of hospitality we wish to uphold. Keanu shook his head, mustering a small smile. No apology is necessary, at least, not to me alone. This is an opportunity for change. He walked past Garrett and Sasha, giving them a polite nod. Neither stylist could meet his eyes. Other staff members parted to create a path for him, their expressions a blend of remorse and amazement. The tension in the air had evolved from mocking superiority to silent introspection. As Keanu made for the door, Vivian followed, pleading quietly, "Please let us make it up to you. We want you to leave satisfied." Keanu paused and turned. The flicker of kindness in his eyes was unmistakable. "I don't need any special treatment. Just treat everyone who comes here with respect." That statement alone had more weight than any scolding or argument. Vivian nodded, tears threatening to form at the corners of her eyes. She understood the magnitude of her staff's misjudgment and the valuable lesson enveloped in Keanu's gentle words. The large doors swung closed behind Keanu Reeves, and a hush lingered. Slowly, conversation resumed, though in hushed, thoughtful tones instead of the earlier mocking whispers. It was as if Keanu had turned a mirror onto everyone present, revealing the ugliness of premature judgment. Vivian stood in the middle of the salon, breathing in the reality of what had just happened. She then turned sharply toward her staff. "Gather around," she said. "We need to talk." One by one, the stylists and reception staff formed a half-circle. Even the clients leaned in, anxious to hear what would be said. "You all know who that was," Vivian began, her voice carrying a hint of disappointment. "But that's not the point. Keanu Reeves or not, no one walking through our doors should be treated the way he was." Her gaze locked onto Garrett, then Sasha, then Callie. Each employee looked remorseful. "This is not the environment we want to cultivate," Vivian declared. "Nova Salon stands for excellence, but excellence is meaningless if we fail at basic human decency. I don't care if someone shows up in designer clothes or tattered jeans. They deserve courtesy and quality service. Understand?" A murmur of assent rippled through the group. Garrett's shoulders sagged, and he finally spoke. "I'm sorry for my behavior. I was too quick to judge." "Me too," Sasha added, eyes cast downward. "We got caught up in appearance." Vivian nodded, determination stealing her features. "From today on, that changes. If we can't learn to treat every person with kindness, we have no right to run a service-based business." Word spread fast. Some clients who had witnessed the event shared their shock on social media. A few apologized personally to Vivian for not stepping in sooner. One older patron mentioned softly, "I wanted to say something, but I was worried about causing a scene. Now I wish I had." Vivian resolved that no one else would leave Nova Salon feeling unwelcome or ridiculed. She met with her team after hours, drafting a policy that reaffirmed the salon's stance on inclusivity and empathy. A sign was to be placed near the entrance, reading, "Every guest here is treated with the utmost respect, no exceptions." The first day that sign was unveiled, some passers-by did a double-take. It was unusual for a high-end establishment to openly declare such a statement, but for Nova Salon, it represented a renewed promise to shift their culture. Clients who walked in, whether they sported ruffled hair and second-hand clothing or were decked in glamour, were greeted warmly with no hidden condescension. Meanwhile, Keanu Reeves strolled down Greystone Avenue, leaving the echo of startled whispers behind. Despite the tension he had endured, his demeanor remained as unruffled as ever. Passing a small food stand, he caught sight of a struggling street performer playing an old guitar with a battered case open for donations. Keanu stopped, listened for a moment, and quietly tucked some bills into the case. The musician gave him a grateful, if somewhat disbelieving, smile. No words were exchanged, just a gentle nod of thanks. As he continued along the sidewalk, he felt lighter. He wasn't naive, he knew that not every place would offer a perfect encounter. But he also believed in the power of simple gestures. If each person made a point to show kindness, even in small ways, the collective effect could be transformative. Back at Nova Salon, the atmosphere had improved considerably. It was as though a veil of pretension had been lifted, replaced by a more genuine sense of warmth. Clients noticing the difference complimented the staff. "It feels so welcoming here now," one patron remarked. Garrett and Sasha, in particular, seemed determined to prove they'd changed. They were gentler with their consultations, more respectful in their dialogue. When clients quizzed them on pricing or services, they responded without the patronizing undertone that had once characterized their approach. There were no more snide remarks or shared smirks. Instead, there was a tangible humility in how they engaged with both old and new patrons. Vivian, for her part, made daily rounds to greet customers personally, ensuring everyone felt valued. The expensive decor remained: marble floors, plush chairs, crystal chandeliers, but the salon radiated a fresh kind of luxury, the luxury of truly humane treatment. A month after the incident, Vivian gathered the entire team for a meeting, congratulating them on the shift in attitude and approach. "Our sales are up," she said, "and it's not just because we're a high-end salon. It's because we've started treating people right." She looked around the group, her eyes lingering on Garrett and Sasha. Both stylists nodded in silent agreement. "We can't control how people appear when they walk through our doors," Vivian continued, "but we can control how we respond. Let this become a core part of our identity. Let's be remembered for our welcoming atmosphere, not our exclusive attitude." A round of applause erupted. In the back of everyone's mind was the memory of Keanu Reeves, who had unwittingly become the catalyst for this transformation. It's a simple yet profound takeaway: real kindness isn't reserved for those who obviously deserve it, it's freely given to everyone, especially those we might be tempted to overlook. Each of us has the power to create a moment of acceptance in a world too often governed by prejudice or hasty conclusions. Whether we're on the giving or receiving end, compassion leaves a mark that can outlast superficial judgments. So, ask yourself, have you ever turned away from a situation because you assumed someone wasn't worth your time? Have you watched someone struggle without offering help, purely because you cast them in an unflattering light? These questions can be uncomfortable, but they're vital for growth. The story of Keanu Reeves at Nova Salon is a reminder that we should never rely solely on external trappings to gauge a person's worth. Now, we invite you to reflect. Have you ever misjudged someone, only to discover they were more than you assumed? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Real conversations start when we allow ourselves to be honest about our failings and open to becoming better. And if this story made you think twice about how you treat others, please remember to subscribe to our channel for more reflections on life, empathy, and human connections. Keanu Reeves left Nova Salon without causing a scene, but his silent grace sparked a shift in an establishment that prided itself on exclusivity. It only took a few words, and the realization of who he truly was, for arrogance to crumble and humility to take root. The memory of that day stands as proof that one person's calm integrity can shine a light on the blind spots of an entire room. When we encounter these moments in our own lives, let's do better than we did before. Let's treat every soul we meet with the dignity they deserve. Let's expand our circles of compassion beyond those who can repay us in status or wealth. That is how we quietly reshape the world, one act of kindness at a time. If this story moved you, consider spreading kindness today. It can be as simple as offering a helping hand to a stranger, giving a genuine compliment to someone who least expects it, or withholding judgment until you learn someone's story. By choosing empathy, we become catalysts for the kind of change that can turn even the coldest environments into welcoming spaces. Thank you for spending your time with us today. We hope you carry this story's lesson forward in your daily life. And, as always, don't forget to subscribe for more stories that might just leave you with new insights and a deeper sense of connection to the world around you. Until next time, remember, real greatness is measured not by what you have, but by how you treat those who appear to have nothing to offer. Go out there and spread kindness. You never know whose life you might touch, or who might be far more extraordinary than they appear.